And I don't mean your morning coffee or anything. I'm talking about the energy flow that keeps life on Earth going, from like the microscopic level all the way up to giant ecosystems. It's pretty mind-blowing when you think about it. And wouldn't you know it, you've sent us an article that tackles this very thing.
Oh, you mean exploring energy dynamics, from photosynthesis to climate change.
That's the one. And let me tell you, this article is quite the journey. It goes from these tiny reactions that we never even think about to the global impact of it all.
It really does. It's fascinating, actually.
So to really wrap our heads around all this, I think we got to start with the basics. Photosynthesis.
The OG energy hack.
Right. It's something we've all heard of, but how much do we really remember from school? I mean, it's how plants use sunlight, chlorophyll, to make, well...
Sugar. It's like they've got these little sugar factories going on.
And it's not just any sugar, it's glucose.
Mm.
But here's the thing. Chlorophyll doesn't just absorb all the sunlight, right?
Exactly. It reflects green light, which is why we see plants as green. They're basically reflecting the color they don't need for this whole energy transformation.
Isn't that amazing? They figured out how to use the one thing we can't make ourselves. So this glucose the plants are making, it's not just for them, is it?
Nope, it's the base of the energy pyramid for almost all life on Earth. Think about it. Even when you're enjoying, say, a burger.
You're tapping into that energy that started with a plant.
Precisely.
Okay, so the plants store the energy, but how do we actually get to use it? Cellular respiration.
Bingo. Our bodies break down that glucose, releasing the energy. It's kind of like, burning fuel to power a car.
Oh, I like that analogy.
And just like cars can run on different types of fuel, we've got options too. Aerobic respiration, the most efficient way, when there's enough oxygen around.
But then there's this whole other mode, anaerobic respiration, for when oxygen's scarce.
You see it more often than you might think.
Really? Like where?
That yogurt you had for breakfast? Or that sourdough bread you love? Nope. Those tangy flavors are actually byproducts of fermentation, which is a type of anaerobic respiration, believe it or not.
So those microorganisms are getting their energy on, basically.
Oh.
That is so cool. But speaking of cool, we got to talk about the extremophiles.
The ultimate survivors, right? Living in places you wouldn't think anything could survive.
Yeah, like the deep ocean floor where there's zero sunlight. That's got to be tough.
You'd think so, but it's actually teeming with life thanks to this process called chemosynthesis.
Chemo what now?
Chemosynthesis. Instead of relying on sunlight, they use chemicals from hydrothermal vents as their energy source.
Hydrothermal vents. Those things sound intense.
Imagine superheated water full of minerals just spewing out of these vents on the ocean floor. It's a harsh environment, but some bacteria have adapted to use that energy from the chemical reactions to make food. No sunlight needed.
That's incredible. So instead of sun-drenched forests, we've got these alien-looking ecosystems powered by chemicals erupting from the Earth.
And some of the life forms down there are pretty amazing too.
Okay, so we've got these primary producers using sunlight or chemicals to make food, but the energy doesn't stop there, does it? It's like a chain reaction, right?
Exactly, and that's where the food web comes in, those interconnected feeding relationships. Who eats who, and how the energy flows through it all.
So from those primary producers up to the herbivores munching on them, and then to the carnivores who prey on them.
Exactly. Each step is a trophic level, basically categorizing organisms based on their spot in the food web.
Okay, that makes sense.
But here's a key point. Energy is lost as it moves up each trophic level.
Wait, hold on. So if a lion eats a gazelle, it doesn't get all the energy the gazelle got from the grass?
Nope. Think of it like an energy pyramid. Wide base for all those primary producers. Each level above gets smaller, showing the energy loss. Only about 10% of the energy from one level goes to the next.
10%? That's way less than I thought.
Yeah.
So does that mean I shouldn't feel as bad about, eating a burger? Because a cow eats a lot of grass to get that energy.
That's a question for another time, perhaps. For now, let's not forget the unsung heroes of this whole system.
The decomposers. Those fungi and bacteria breaking down all the
dead stuff. Returning those nutrients back to the ecosystem for the primary producers to use again?
It's mind-blowing how everything is connected. Okay, ready to get even smaller. Let's talk about what's happening inside our very own cells.
You mean metabolic pathways?
Yes. They sound so complex.
Picture intricate assembly lines, building new molecules, breaking others down, transforming energy. That's metabolic pathways in a nutshell.
And what's powering all this?
That would be adenosine triphosphate, or ATP. It's our cell's primary energy carrier. Think of it like a tiny rechargeable battery.
So all that energy we get from food gets turned into these little batteries our cells use for Well, everything.
Pretty much, yeah. Muscle contraction, thoughts, your heartbeat, all fueled by ATP.
Whoa, every time I'm thinking about how amazing this all is, if those little batteries at work, that is unbelievably cool.
Our bodies are pretty incredible. But just like with everything else, we got to remember the bigger picture. This
Mm.
incredible energy flow isn't happening in isolation.
Right, our environment, climate, it all plays a role, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. Environmental factors like temperature, light, how many nutrients there are, it all impacts these energy processes.
It's like we're talking about changing the settings on a giant thermostat for the whole planet.
Yeah, kind of. And, well, changing those settings, it can have some pretty big consequences. That's where climate change comes in.
Right, because we're messing with the settings without knowing what it'll do in the long run.
Exactly. The article mentions how rising ocean temperatures are affecting coral reefs.
Oh, right, coral bleaching.
Yeah, those bright colors we think of when we think of coral reefs,
Hmm.
they actually come from algae that live inside the coral. It's the symbiotic relationship they've got going on.
So they help each other out.
Exactly. But it's a delicate balance, and when the ocean gets even a couple of degrees warmer, it throws things off. The algae get expelled from the coral.
And that causes the bleaching.
Right. Without the algae, the coral loses its main energy source,
Mhm.
and then it's more likely to get sick.
Like a domino effect, one thing leads to another.
Perfect way to put it. And it just shows how important it is to understand these energy dynamics. It's not just, oh, plants make food, or this is what gives our cells energy. It's about how connected everything is.
And even small changes in one place can have a ripple effect.
Exactly. And that brings us back to us and the part we play in this. We're not just watching it happen, we're part of this energy flow.
Every choice we make, what we eat, how we power our homes, it all matters.
Absolutely. Understanding those impacts can help us make smarter decisions about how we live our lives, how
Yeah.
we treat our environment.
So where do we even go from here? I mean, it's easy to feel overwhelmed by all of this.
I get that, definitely. But knowledge is power,
Knowing how it works is the first step to changing things.
For sure. The more we understand these energy processes, the better equipped we'll be to find solutions.
Solutions for things like climate change.
Exactly. When we really get how interconnected it all is, we see how our actions, they really do have these big consequences, good or bad.
It's humbling, but also kind of empowering.
I think that's a great way to look at it. It's humbling to realize how massive and complex these systems are,
Mhm.
but it's also empowering to know we have the ability to figure them out and make choices to create a more sustainable future.
So it's not about feeling helpless, but about using that feeling of, wow, this is incredible, and our responsibility to do something, to actually take action.
Exactly. We're all part of this incredible web of life connected by these energy processes.
And every choice we make, it can affect that web.
Yeah. So, as we're wrapping up this deep dive into energy dynamics, I'd say the thing to remember is we're not separate from nature. We're a part of these energy flows,
Hmm.
and what we do has a direct impact on the balance of our planet. But that also means we've got the power to make a positive change.
It's a call to action. A reminder that even the small things can make a difference and lead to a more sustainable future.
Well said.
And when it comes to those choices, what we eat, it seems like there's a direct link to this whole energy flow.
Oh, there absolutely is. Every time you take a bite, it represents this energy transfer, energy that started with the sun and moved through these different levels.
So like when I eat a salad, I'm basically getting a direct line to solar energy.
Pretty much. And because energy gets lost with each step, choosing plant-based foods can be a more energy-efficient way to fuel your body.
That makes sense. What about those of us who aren't quite ready to give up our burgers, though?
Well, even just cutting back a bit can make a difference. Every little thing we do adds up,
Right, right. It's like we're all part of this big energy equation,
Yeah.
and our choices kind of determine which way it tips.
Exactly. And it's not even just the food, right? It's how we power our homes, how we get around, the things we buy. Every decision has this energy footprint.
So we got to be mindful about it. Like, where's our energy coming from? And what impact are our choices having on the environment?
Yeah, absolutely. It's realizing that we're all part of this delicate balance. And every little thing we do, it sends ripples through the whole system.
I know it's kind of daunting when you think about it like that. But then it's also like, well, hey, maybe we can actually change something.
Yeah, I get that. It can feel overwhelming, all these big systems, but that's what I find so fascinating about this energy flow idea. It's not just some science-y concept, it's about understanding life itself and where we fit into it all.
Totally. It's like this hidden network connecting everything. Once you see it, You can't unsee it.
Exactly. It changes how you see the world.
So as we're wrapping up here, I'm curious, what's the one thing you hope our listener takes away from all of this?
I think the most important thing is we're not separate from nature. We're a part of these energy flows. What we do affects the balance of the planet, but that means we also have the power to make it better.
It's a call to action. Even small changes can have a ripple effect and create a better future for everyone.
Beautifully said.
Well, on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive. Listener, we hope this journey into the world of energy has left you feeling inspired, maybe even a little more committed to taking care of our planet.
And hey, maybe you'll even look at your sourdough bread a little differently now.
Absolutely. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep those energy levels high.